Frances Jones Poetker. What can be said about Frances that hasn't been written, spoken, or broadcast? Well, that fact doesn't daunt her friends. They just can't say enough about her.
Well, I think what I most admire about Frances is her willingness to commit herself and to see her projects through.
She's in one group after another helping out without financial compensation.
She's really given very generously of her time and of herself. She's participated in all of our events.
We've become very deeply involved with her because of her very great knowledge and interest in the Taft Museum.
I think every day that she gets up, her eyes open with wonder and surprise.
Open person, very easy to approach and talk to.
She was always quick to talk to anyone, and especially a new person in our industry.
I found her to be very useful and helpful and very inspirational.
She is an artist, actually kind of paints with flowers.
She is a competent business woman. She is an educator. She's a lecturer. She's a writer. She's a woman of many, many talents.
I would portray her as a Renaissance woman with great warmth.
Whew, what a woman! And she resides here in conservative old Cincinnati? Well, Cincinnati may be her home, but Frances Jones Poetker is world famous. Perhaps you weren't aware of that. Max Swigert wasn't, at least when he first knew her, not until sometime in the 50s when he picked up a copy of the nation's leading weekly, the Saturday Evening Post. Here's what he saw.
A big feature article on Frances Jones, lavishly illustrated, very flattering, and she was depicted as the queen of flowers in this country. I realized from that moment that our good friend Frances was really a national personality.
The Queen of Flowers, aptly named. Like a queen, Frances Jones Poetker was born into a royal family of florists. Her grandfather and her father were famous florists before her. But her childhood was hardly the relaxed life of a princess royal.
No older no children, just me. So I learned how to water and how to defoliate leaves, and you learn to discriminate between the good and the bad, and the fine specimens, and the strong stems and the weak ones, and how to wire pine cones. I would be told, well, don't just sit there, wire pine cones.
Frances attended Walnut Hills High School, went to Vassar, and graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree. She returned home and earned a master's degree in plant ecology from the University of Cincinnati. She tried her hand at fashion merchandising, but gradually came to an important realization.
That I wanted really to be a fashion person. But then I found that flowers were so much better friends.
So she decided to acquire her father's already famous flower business. It wasn't handed to her on a silver platter.
My father bought it from his father, and I bought it from my father.
There was one valuable legacy that came free of charge.
Mrs. Poetker, as a businesswoman, always displayed the finest merchandise, always offered a good product at a fair price.
And she soon equaled and then surpassed her parents' and grandparents' enviable reputations.
She took over a family business, built it, built a reputation around the world in her business.
She judged almost every major city flower show, like Washington, D.C., New York, San Francisco, Miami, Florida. Wherever there was a big flower show going on, she was one of the top judges, looked up to by people from all over the United States.
She has worked in Japan and Europe and Central America. She has been entertained by royalty. She's done the 100th anniversary of Carnegie Hall, did the Winter Olympics.
She was selected by the people for Ronald Reagan when he became president to do the flower arranging throughout the White House.
She has carried the name of Cincinnati around the world.
She became a tremendous collector of posy holders, and she gave her collection to the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, and it's one of their treasures at the Smithsonian now.
Frances Jones Poetker has been universally recognized as an artist in her own right. What you see before you is only a partial list of her accomplishments. Early in her floral career, she became a spokesperson for her industry on the lecture circuit, on radio, and on television. She served many years on the FTD Board of Directors. Former Congressman Robert Taft remembers her persuasive lobbying techniques.
She headed up at that point one of the national organizations and was quite effective in asking for help.
She is the most persistent, dedicated person that I've met.
She is a very shrewd businesswoman.
Frances was the first female board member of a bell system operating company.
One of the first women in this city to serve on the board of large company.
She has been a very articulate, a very careful and sensitive board member.
She didn't take an assignment of that kind in a casual way.
She attends almost every board meeting that we have.
There was a time when Frances was confined to a wheelchair.
She went to New York and she went around with our group in a wheelchair. And she was remarkable. She's a dedicated person.
There are many passions in Frances Jones Petker's life, but like the song says, happiness is a thing called Joe.
She and her husband, Joe Poetker, have built a wonderful, wonderful life.
They're warm and loving, and Joe is very supportive of everything that she does.
They really are a wonderful couple, very loving and very compatible in every way.
Frances has one, perhaps somewhat professional, idiosyncrasy that warrants comment.
Yes, she always wears a fresh flower.
Oh, that's right. She always wears flowers.
She always had a corsage on.
If she comes to a home or to an event, she will bring you a flower.
She always brought a flower in for me.
Notice how a man just straightens up and feels that he is well-groomed and that he is handsome, and he looks handsome when he wears a carnation.
There is one very strange belief that Frances grew up with.
I absolutely know wonderful features.
Let's put that to rest right here and now.
She's a very attractive woman.
It's a lady that you will look at twice.
Very pretty lady.
She's a striking, commanding-looking woman, too.
One of the vibrant persons in the crowd.
She has those eyes that are very alert and intelligent.
She lights up, she sparkles.
She doesn't fade into the woodwork.
Elegant, stylish.
She has her own style.
With that marvelous streak in her hair.
She's a persona. You notice her in a room.
Although Frances dresses with impeccable good taste, she has been known to create a stir with her fashion.
We were at a party together and she had painted her face and, I mean, really painted, not just makeup, but painted her face and had sheaves of wheat and corn coming out of her hair, and it was something about, I think she was the goddess Demeter.
Wheat is a symbol of enough to eat. Anyway, it's different, and you can do things that are different. You don't have to be so terribly traditional about everything.
How did this untraditional heroine become the toast of Cincinnati? Well, could you imagine life here without Frances?
It's a little bit like Voltaire said of God, if Cincinnati hadn't had Frances Jones, we would have had to invent her.
Ladies and gentlemen, by the grace of God and her own invention, we give you your next great living Cincinnatian, Frances Jones Petker.